How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Paste Studio here in Midtown Manhattan, New York City. We are broadcasting to you live from the Manhattan Center here on 34th Street, as always, and we are really, really pleased and honored to be joined by Mary Chapin Carpenter.
Nice
welcome,
to be here.
welcome to our log cabin.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
It's really an honor to have you. We have been listening to this new record that came out on March 30th. It's called "Sometimes Just the Sky." It's a unique record. Essentially, it marks 30 years of your touring and recording career, and there are 13 songs on it. 12 of them are from previous records, one from each of those records.
Exactly.
And then a new song, which is the title song.
Exactly.
Man, I practiced that for like 20 minutes
You
and nailed it, right?
You got it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm really interested in sort of how this record came together and how it all kind of fits. But let's start off with the song first. Tell me a little bit about what we're going to start with.
This is the oldest song on the record. This kicks the record off, and it's the oldest song, and the record marks 30 years of recording and touring, as you just said, but this predates that even. So it's definitely from the last century, and it's been around a while. So it's called Heroes and Heroines. Heroes and heroines, scarcer than they've ever been. So much more to lose than win. Distance ever greater. Way back when you made history, flying planes across the sea, embarking on the Odyssey, you put away the danger. Heaven bless the one who flies, a pioneer on frontier skies. The world was dark, and your only mark was the light of the northern star. I imagine what was in your eyes, seeds of rust in days gone by. Your wings hang in a gallery sky. I wonder how you're flying. Way out on the western plains, snow drifts high and dark clouds rain. The Chinooks blow their winds across the mountains. A life that's never safe and dry. Rodeo, riding high. Women and their men get by on 6 guns and white lightning. Heaven bless them on the road, drifters and their dreams of gold. The world was wide, and a cowboy's soul could span the whole horizon. I imagine what was in your eyes, the dust and dirt under outlaw skies. A piece of land and a stubborn mind were the only things worth having. Now they say the moon is dust and ash, California's made of cash, and one day those hills will crash into the sparkling waters. Rain and snow and sun and wind, you roamed the earth and you spread your wings, and long ago a hero's dreams belong to all God's creatures. Heaven bless the ones who sleep, the ones who laugh and the ones who weep. Heaven bless the ones who keep their bearing strong and certain. And Lord help the fool who said, you better quit while you're ahead. A dreamer born is a hero bred on earth and up in heaven. Lord help the fool who said, better quit while you're ahead. A dreamer born is a hero bred on earth and up in heaven. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So this album is, is an interesting album. It must have been interesting to go back and assemble it.
It was.
So I know it was recorded live. Is that right? That was sort of the conceit of how the album was actually executed?
It's just, I guess, it's such a moment in time that now you say sort of it's a conceit to record live versus the way it used to be all the time.
Yeah, right.
But it's a function of budgets and technology and all that sort of thing. And, more often than not, things are made by, emailing your part in or whatever it is. But it was very much a desire of ours to sit in a circle and everything you hear is exactly as it happened, and there are no overdubs. And my wonderful producer, Ethan Johns, he has a great gift for miking things, and even he mics the drums in such a way that even the drums are in the room.
Yeah.
So there may be a little bit of a bleed, but really you're just not even aware of it. And so everything is as you hear it. And it was great and wonderful to be able to do that.
So when I read that was how the album was created, I wondered, did that have something to do with how you chose each song from the album and like how it would be performed live? Some songs maybe were more conducive to this process than others.
Well, you'd think I would have thought of that ahead of time, but no, I really actually didn't. I had a certain criteria. I had minimal criteria, but one being. And it was challenging to pick one song from each existing record. The first criteria was that I didn't pick I wouldn't go near any song that I had already revisited in some fashion. A few years ago, I put out an orchestral record, and some of those were my favorite songs, but so those were not candidates. And then I also stayed away from, for lack of a better word, radio songs, so-called hits. I didn't really have a desire to excavate those and see what was there. It was a desire to really dive deeper into the catalog and see what I would find. And for example, there's a song on the record called Superman, and it was part of the recording project of an album called Time, Sex, Love, but it was a B-side to a promotional single way back when we did things like that. And I had always loved this song, and it was always like a terrible regret of mine that it wasn't on the album. So here was my chance, for example, to do it and make it part of a whole. And so that was sort of where I went.
Yeah. And in revisiting them, the other thing I was sort of wondering as I looked at this track listing was, these songs represent, a chronology in a way, going back these 30 years. Although, interestingly, the record is not in chronological order. I was interested to see.
Right.
But in terms of these songs, where you were in your life when you wrote them versus where you are now, did you find that there was like new meanings, new interpretations for you, the artist?
Absolutely. And, I'm a soft touch anyway, but, we would be in session and I would be, we'd be playing an old song, and it's, sort of like your life passing before you in the sense that as I'm doing it, and that's the thing, it's sort of you're multitasking, you're concentrating really hard because it's all live and you're singing and playing at the same time and listening to everybody else and finding your spot and all that. But at the same time, there was another part of my brain that was experiencing again anew memories of people in my life when I wrote X song, emotions that I was feeling my heart break over again after, some romantic, escapade, something.
Yeah.
And there were more than a few times where I felt weepy and teary, just sort of coming into contact with these songs again.
Were there songs that you knew you did not want to revisit? Are those songs in the catalog?
I'd say yes.
Yeah.
There were some songs like yes, there were some songs that for reasons of just personal preference and emotional, impact, I didn't really want to go near.
Yeah.
Or they just didn't strike me anymore. Not anymore, but just in that moment of sort of assessing all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? I think honestly, the day that I finalized the song selection, a week later, it could have been a different song selection. But this is what I ended up with on the day that I finished.
Right. Well, that'll be the next one down the line, right?
Sure.
Volume 2.
I'd love that.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we're gonna do a couple more with Mary Chapin Carpenter.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about this next one.
This next song, someone once remarked that this was the most autobiographical song that I'd ever written, and I've never had a need to argue with that. I think that's probably true. It's called I Have a Need for Solitude. I have a need for solitude. I'll never be safe in crowded rooms. I like the sound of silence coming on. I come around when everyone has gone. I have a need for cool, verdant spaces beneath the trees, secret, empty places nobody knows, so no one will intrude. I have a need for solitude, but you can find me when the light is changing, at that time of day when there's little day remaining. You can find me where I've been waiting here for you. I never was the pretty girl in school. I never was fast, tough, and cool. All I was, all my life it seems, is hard to love and harder now to keep. But you can find me when the light is changing, at that time of day when there's little day remaining. I have a need for solitude. I'll never be safe in crowded rooms. I like the sound of silence coming on. I come around when all the rest have gone. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
You know, so the other thing, as I was looking through and listening to this new record, so there's a new song on it. It's called "Sometimes Just the Sky," which is the title track of the record. And you know, I thought it might have something to do with the record in general, kind of an overarching theme to it. And immediately, as I was listening to it, it struck me as, you know, kind of regretful in a way, talking about endless should-haves and losses piled up. And that was interesting to me as a summation, and it goes into, I think, more hopeful territory. As
Right. I mean, you're speaking about the first verse. I mean,
that's
I'm
right.
setting
That's true.
you up.
That's true. And as the verses go along, there definitely is a thawing of that kind of emotion.
Right.
But it was an interesting place to start.
Mm-hmm.
I thought,
Right.
you know, as you're sort of maybe telling the story of this long journey.
Right.
I don't know if there's a question in there. What is my question?
Well, I'll reflect on what you've just said. Again, you know, I feel like I wanted to set up sort of a scenario where, you know, you think of life as this, but it actually can be something else. And that was, rolling it back a little bit, this song was inspired by this beautiful interview that I read that Patti Smith gave. You know, it's like, and I don't even know how I found it. You know, it's like, I guess you spend enough time on the internet and you go down a lot of rabbit holes, right?
Yeah.
And then you find something and it just grabs you. And that's what happened to me. She was giving she was chatting with some young folks, and it was like 2012 or something. And so I'm going to paraphrase here, of course, but she was saying, she was encouraging them and saying that, you know, if there's something in your life that you're passionate about and that you love, and you should pursue it with everything you have and consider it your calling. But you should be prepared for it to be really hard and for life to be hard. You should be prepared to encounter grief and loss and failure and all of those things that can be so daunting. But on the other hand, life is beautiful and magical, and it's so worth it. And it can be as simple as having a perfect cup of tea and a talk with a friend, or, you know, sometimes just the sky.
Yeah.
And that's what she said. And the phrase just, you know, hit me right in the heart. And so, you know, you were talking about sort of the feeling of regret and loss and those kinds of things in the first verse, and that's all true. In the second verse, though, what I try to say is, like the lyric says, you know, I hold out my open hands despite my empty arms. And to me, that's sort of a manifesto. It's, you know, yes, life is hard, and it's full of disappointment and brokenness and regret and all of those things, but it is magical and beautiful at the same time, and you have to seek those things, and you have to walk through life with an open heart. If you close it up, and if you're closed up, you might as well just stop right now. And so that's what the song's about. And I felt very strongly that what the song was speaking to, or what I was trying to speak to, were so many of the themes that exist in all of the songs that come previously on the record. And all those expressions of emotion and the thematic threads, they all sort of tie together somehow in the song. There was a reason why I wanted to put it at the end of the record, as well as, you know, have it represent the new be the new song and be the title song as well.
Yeah. Did you feel as though, as you were putting those songs together, were you looking to piece songs together that you thought were sort of added up to that kind of a thing, or do they just sort of, they do that naturally?
You know, it's been my experience. Every record I've ever made, you know, it's like you, speaking only for myself, but, you know, I spend years writing and writing and writing, and then I reach a point magically or mysteriously where I feel like I think I've just written the last song for this album, and then you're ready to go into the studio. You just feel like you've got the songs, and you go into the studio and you start working, and it's as if it happens every time. The themes and the connective tissue, the threads, they all slowly start to reveal themselves, and they all make sense together. And you don't necessarily know how that's going to happen, but it just seems to do that.
Yeah.
And this record was no different in that way. But the thing that made it even more extraordinary to me was that all the songs were from different years and different periods of my life and different lifetimes in a way, you know, and yet they all connected to each other. And you know, how that happens, I have no idea, but it does seem to be a strange, beautiful alchemy.
Yeah. And it all leads to this title song, which is the 13th of 13 songs on this new record, called Sometimes Just the Sky.
Yeah, this is the song. Voices in my head and endless should-haves rain on me like a storm, like a hurricane. Losses piled up like wood stacked stories high. Feels like I've been framed and I've no alibi. Used to be that all I needed was what I didn't possess. Yearning makes you who you end up as, more or less. Whatever choice I made that worked out was just a lucky guess. Just a lucky guess. Adventures half discarded and half held on to now, like dancing on a ledge to the edge somehow. I can still pick out the faces, though I forget the names, and places that are gone, but the urge remains. To throw caution to the wind, or is it to the stars? To hold out my open hands despite my empty arms. To wear my heart upon my sleeve just like a battle scar. These are battle scars. There's comfort in a late-night kitchen's radio, and in a letter sent, and lists of what you know. And when you don't know anything, you make another one. It's good to write it down, starting with the sun. Sometimes church bells, trees, and seasons marking times gone by. Sometimes starling swells and tidal pools and filled up eyes. Well, sometimes everything at once, but sometimes just the sky. Sometimes just the sky. so much.
Thank you so very much.
My pleasure.
It's a beautiful song.
Thank you.
And, you know, when I first heard it, actually, the record that you mentioned earlier, Songs from the Movie, which came out in 2014, was also sort of a re-recording songs, but it was within this grand sort of opera, orchestral with a lot of voices and a lot of sound. And it seems like that song really kind of sums up the organic life of this career in a way that record, it had a different, obviously it had a different,
well, a different
point
purpose.
to it, purpose to it.
It's just a sort of a cinematic rendering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this, I don't know, that song really seems to fit this collection really just perfectly.
Oh, great. I'm glad you feel that way.
So that was 3 songs from the new record by Mary Chapin Carpenter. It's called Sometimes Just the Sky. We just heard the title track, which is the one new song on this record. And so there is a tour coming up, I know, starts out in England in May, I believe. Is that right?
That's
and
right.
then back around to the States in June. And all those dates are available for everyone to find on marychapincarpenter.com. You can also hear music and get all of the information that one finds on websites.
All the news.
On that website. All
That's
the
right.
news that
That's right.
fits on marychapincarpenter.com is there to be read. So thank you so very much.
My pleasure.
For coming
Thanks for
and
having
playing
me.
in our log cabin
Loved it.
here in New
Love
York
it.
City.
It's great.
And please come back and play for us again anytime.
Thank you. I'd love to.
Okay, thank you so much.